community, and it has been a while, and I am very happy to be doing this again. It may be a little disorganized. I had thought about trying to just hit the highlights and decided that too many important things and things that I'm proud of have happened over the summer, and so I still wanted to share them. So it may be one that you only watch part of, or that you have to come back to a couple times, or maybe you're really lucky and you get knitting sessions that are long enough to take all this in. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Gmail as Mama and a Manse. And I think that's all the administrative stuff, so I'm just going to start right in. I am not completely sure exactly where we left off the last time, but I have a decent idea, so I'm just going to start with the beginning of July, the last time that we did anything, and move on from there, just chronological, the whole thing. So the first thing that I'm really proud of doesn't really have anything to do with knitting, but that weekend, the first weekend in July, I preached for the first time. My husband was taking our oldest son to camp, and there was no good pulpit supply, and so he talked me into it, and yeah, so that was a huge fear that I faced and survived. It can be found on our church Facebook page. I would definitely say that if you've heard more than, maybe 5 sermons in your whole life, it's probably not the worst one you would ever hear. Also, I'm willing to bet that it is the one that has the most knitting content on it. So, I don't know, I was pretty happy with it. If you're interested in watching it, here's my little disclaimer. I'm not going to argue politics or religion with anyone. I do not think they are separate. And also, so there's that. But also, if you don't agree with my views, then that's totally up to you. You don't have to watch it. If you do happen to go and see it, please remember it's my husband's workplace. If you commented on it or anything like that, we live in a pretty conservative area in a pretty conservative state, and the point was just to reach everyone, something for everyone. Anyways, I was pretty proud of it. You can find it on Facebook at UPC North Bend. If you just look that up, you should be able to find that if you're interested. But like I said, it probably has more knitting content than pretty much anybody. I actually talk about the knitting community a little tiny bit. But anyway, so that's the first thing that I was super proud of. And then I'll go into some of the stuff that I did between then and county fair. So I'm gonna have to dig. I think I might have shown on the last podcast one of these socks, but I did finish 2 of them. So these are for our youngest son, Isaac, and they are out of the Opal Kids like self-patterning, which I really kind of enjoyed. It did cause some problems if you watched the last one with my older son, because the patterning did not go long enough for his foot before this toe part started, and so it has this really long toe on it, and he's only 8, so I felt like it should have been longer, but Isaac is 3.5. These are the perfect size for him, and I did not have that problem. Like, I still had some patterning left that I can put into my bucket, or my bucket to make my scrap blanket. Then I also finished a few sweaters, and by finish I mean they're off the needles, and some of the ends have been woven in, not all of them. So one of the things that I did finish was my weekender, which is currently wrong side out. Sorry. there were ends being woven in because it's kind of crazy. Okay. So this is The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. And there's not much of a difference between the front and the back. So I'm not sure which one is which, but I made this out of Barocco. I don't remember now. I'm sure it's in a previous podcast. If someone is wondering, it is a discontinued yarn. It's very stretchy. So once all the ends get woven in on this, I am going to block it and see, because when I did, I only tried it on once, not since it's been off the needles, but it was very, very close to my neck. And so I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. I think because there's so, like the yarn itself, you can see from this end that I can stretch it quite a ways. I think that kind of made it kind of condense up a little bit. So, and I did swatch for it. But I'm interested to see how this will be after I block it. And if it ends up that it doesn't really work for me, my daughter is rapidly approaching me in clothing and shoes. She's started stealing things from me. So she would probably be able to wear it if it's too small for me as far as being too tight and close around the neck, because I cannot stand necklines that do that. So then I also got this one off the needles, and not all of the ends have been woven in and it has not been blocked. But this is my long line cardigan by Joji Locatelli. And the sleeves that I have on have cuffs on them, and they're kind of bulky, so I can't really put this on, but this looks absolutely fantastic on. It is the perfect shape, drapes beautifully on my body, so I'm super happy with it. And now it will actually be cold enough. Oh, there's the rest of it. It's gotten cold enough that I can wear fall stuff. So this is One Twisted Tree Chaotic Neutral yarn, and I absolutely loved it. I love the pattern, I love the sweater, and it's going to be a staple that I can wear all the time. And like I said, it looks fantastic on, so I'm pretty excited about that one. Another long-term project that I worked on and finished, I was really trying to make my stash dash goal. So I got out this owl blanket that I started for Violet before she was born. I cannot remember off the top of my head who the designer was of this. And I don't think that that's one of the papers I still had sitting ready for podcasting. But it is out of, this is chroma worsted, the colored yarn. And then the white, my husband actually convinced me to do like a Lion Brand Pound of Love cheap thing. And I was like, okay, because then it won't be $100 baby blanket. But as I like pulled it all out and it had gotten dirty, you know, sitting around for so long, and we washed it and kind of blocked it out, and then I started putting it all together, which was a huge pain in the butt. I really regretted that decision to use the acrylic, and especially the cheaper acrylic. But it is what it is. I haven't really knit with very much since the time when we were planning this, and so it just felt a lot more gross to me. But it's not too bad now that it's all together. It was just very, very different. And plus, I have not been working with very much heavier weight yarns either, and so that was kind of a slog. But I got that done. I also if you recall, I was teaching a class at Synod School, which is like church camp for the whole family, on steroids. And so for the class that I was teaching middle schoolers how to knit. So I made 2 example hats of the pattern that I was having them do. So this was with the rolled brim option. And these are Hobby Lobby. I love this chunky. And then this was kind of for a more slouchy version. And the ribbed brim. And then during class, this is the one that I made kind of with them to show them the different steps. So I did 3 of those hats. And then I signed up for a test knit. There, if any of you have ever watched Psych, it is one of our favorite shows. It's total goofball, sort of a police show, but I mean, it is solving crimes, but it's really more goofball comedy. And there's a huge running joke throughout the whole series about pineapple. The main character is obsessed with pineapples. He's always like, pineapple, whatever. If you have never watched Psych, you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I sound crazy. But anyways, so I had seen this on Instagram, and they were the perfect pineapple socks. Excuse me, my pattern is clear over here. The Pineapple Perfect Socks. And they are by Alyssa Greenlaw, who is Stitched Together Studios on Instagram, I believe. This is why you don't wait so long to podcast, because you completely forget everything. She just has her regular name on here. I did this out of some, oh my goodness, hedgehog that I had gotten in the monthly clubs. And then this is Fiber Universe, which is a yarn store in Peoria, Illinois. Some that they do. So it has this pineapple motif lace and cable thing. And then the back, it has kind of a little bit bigger one. It's kind of hard to see, not on, but it's very cute. I only made the one so far. And then I cast on a pair of socks to work on, because each morning we would have convocation and have a speaker for like an hour. And then I also chose not to take a class 1 hour so that I could chillax. Herding 5 kids through that many things and eating in a cafeteria and all that, I was like, you know, it would be nice to have that brain space time just to be. And so I had these vanilla socks to work on during convocation. So these are my convocation socks. This is out of Knit Picks Felici, and I believe this is the Goth Kitty. There was a knot in my skein, and so the striping sequence kind of messed up here, but I don't mind. They're just socks, and they're so soft. So then the next thing that would be up is I did decide to go ahead and enter county fair. So I'm going to show you all the stuff that I entered. I need to rearrange a little bit. I had 9 entries in the knitting category. And I've just kept them in the bag waiting to podcast. So you could only enter 1 thing in each category in the knitting lot. And so I was in 9 things. This was in the article not named. It's my Morning Mist t-shirt, because they only had like a sweater entry. Oh, I did need my other sweater. You've seen it before though. I got first place in each category of knitting that I entered into. So I also entered my Kirsten cardigan in the sweater category. That is by Melissa Kimmerer. And I used Cascade Heritage for that. And it's called the Windswept. That's what her pattern was. So I entered, oh, it's clipped together. I entered my Hansel shawl sweater thing in the baby Afghan, because that's what I made it for, was for Violet, her blanket, and it's what she had, what we used the day she was baptized. And I can't get there. There we go. So this pattern is by Gudrun Johnson. And I use Knit Picks palette. My pile over here is getting really big. Then I entered my, which ones were these called? Were they Vesper socks? By Knitting Expat, and the yarn was Chili Knits. I think I might have showed these the last time that I podcasted. But it was kind of fun because they also put little comments on the back of my cards. And her comment on these was that they were too fun to wear. And I have not worn them because I knew I was going to put them in county fair, and then I was keeping them nice for the podcast. So they actually have not been worn. And I'm going to steal this so I can put other socks on it. That one has a different thing. This one has a different thing. I entered my Cross of Christ scarf that I made for Easter last year. I put in Lizzie's version of the hat that I designed, which I'm getting ready to start playing with that and getting it all fixed up. And that was out of Happy Feet from Plymouth. Okay, so I think that's it on that, except for the things that got extra. So everything got a first place in the category it was in, but then for the entire knitting lot, I got first, second, and third most outstanding. So this baby sweater, which is the Baby Novice by Laura Nelkin, and it's out of Fabulous Fibers Marianne. It got third place overall in knitting, first place in its category for baby sweater. Then this Lizzie dress by Tega Hillard got second, and it is out of Knit Picks a linen. Lindy Jane. This was also for Violet's baptism. And then, of course, my Fading Point shawl by Joji Locatelli got first most outstanding in all the knitting. And I know that I showed this one last time because it's the picture. So that was my county fair adventure. I was very proud of it. I did make like $42 on premiums, which I immediately put away to spend on yarn and to save that up. And just the whole stepping out of my comfort zone between preaching and teaching and entering the fair, it was just really exciting and something new for me, and I was just really proud of myself for putting myself out there, I guess. And then after that, I started working on some other stuff, trying to get up to my goal for Stash Dash. So the school mascot in our town are the tigers. And my husband had found this self-striping yarn at Hobby Lobby and wanted me to make hats for everyone. So this yarn had been sitting around our house for a while, and I decided to start with his hat and then my hat and just keep working down so it would seem like they were going faster and faster. There's not going to be enough yarn to do 7 hats. So I will probably just make some that are striped with orange and black. This is the Ribberoni pattern by Stephanie Tanner, and it's like the first real hat pattern that I ever did and used, and I made lots of these for Christmas presents my first few years of knitting. It's just really my favorite go-to hat pattern. It just has a little bit of a rib. The wideness of the rib is a little bit different for the different sizes. But I finished 2 of those. Then Melissa Kimmerer came out with a pattern that's part of her Nomadic Knits collection, and it was called Beach Hair Don't Care. So it's just a little headband. I made it out of some of the yarn that I dyed myself. I have not, I haven't blocked it. I've been really bad about blocking, apparently. It does make me look like a biker chick, however. So I tried to wear it one day after I finished it, and I was like, nope, I can't. It did not look attractive on me at all. I don't know if it's just the darkness against my skin tone or the particular hair day I was having, but it was not something I really loved on myself. But I'll try it again some other time. I had my hair down. I wanted to keep my hair down and have it cover up here. And yeah, I looked like I should jump on the back of a bike and go to Sturgis. So then I also made, and I apologize because these are dirty, even though I have repeatedly told my daughter not to wear them so that I can show them on the podcast. But she likes to sneak them and wear them anyways. So these were just out of a super bright yarn, and there's 2 of them. I made these for Emma because I had previously made some garment for everybody else, so I made hers next after the boys' pattern socks. And I'm really bad because I don't remember what the name of this. It was a commercial yarn with really long repeats, and I can see the label in my head, but I can't remember what it says on it. I also started making a mother bear. I got this far, so we still need another arm and a face, and I'm gonna put a skirt on her, like a hot pink skirt, so she'll look like a ballerina kind of, I guess. But I have not finished this. Then I was like, okay, well maybe I can crank out a bunch of knitted knockers, and that will help me get up to my goal. And so I made 2 C cups. They're not stuffed. This was my first time doing knitted knockers. There was kind of a learning curve to figure it out. I tried at first to do it magic loop. Absolutely hated that. I ended up getting some of the flexi flips in the size that I needed for these. And truthfully, they may be just a little bit dense. I did do the C, but I feel like they're just a little bit tighter than that. But once they have stuff in them, they may be exactly right on. But these little guys were only putting like 40 grams on at a time, and so I just decided I'm not going to make it. I was, in the end, about 600 meters away from meeting my goal of 10,000. So that was kind of a bummer, but I was also very proud of everything that I did get done. And truthfully, this summer, it looks like I had a lot of knitting time, but it was mostly stolen time. I didn't clean my house very much the whole summer. We were going a lot and just preparing for stuff constantly. And so I was pretty proud of what I had accomplished. I got pretty close, and so I was okay with not making it. I thought that, especially finishing things, particularly the owl blanket that I'd had going for a year and a half already, that was a pretty worthy thing to be proud of. So that was Stash Dash. Then, after all of this, I was getting ready. So as soon as Stash Dash ended, I was like, okay, I think it's time to start making all the sweaters. I'm gonna do the pavement sweater first. I have the yarn for it. I just need to wind it up and swatch. Then, suddenly, I found out that it looks like kitties have gotten into yarn. Surprisingly and completely unexpectedly, I was invited to travel with a friend to Arizona, and so we were going at the end of September. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a few more summer things because I can take them with me to Arizona. So the first thing that I did was I decided to crank out and finish the Azalea Cami by Pam Allen, which I've had going for a really long time. And I did finish it. It's in Queensland, Savannah, the Savannah, Queensland collection. It is linen, silk, and cotton, I believe. I did finish it. It has this lace down at the bottom. So I did not try it on after I finished it, and I put it on when we were in Arizona, and it looks horrendous. I did not even let my friends see me in it. It looked so awful. And I don't know if because I measured myself to choose the side not that long after I had the baby, if perhaps I made too big of a size, because it is just, it's like a square block around my boobs. It does not fit at all. The other thing is that the people that they have wearing it are absolute waifs. I don't think they actually show the person. But she's quite skinny. There are pictures online. But for me, it was not in any way an attractive look. I don't know if there's some way if I can get rid of some of the extra fabric, or if I wear a bra that particularly enhances my breasts, if it will look better, but it is definitely not something I'm happy with at all, which is unfortunate because I was really looking forward to having this hot pink top to wear. I had thought that it looked pretty big just finishing it, but a lot of the boxier shapes do, but they'll usually kind of fit around the chest area, and so then they don't look sloppy, but it looks like I'm wearing a box, a hot pink box, and not in a cute boxy sort of way, just an absolute cereal box. So we will see. I have no idea what I can do to change that. It was not super cheap yarn, so I really want to do something to make it wearable, but at this time it is definitely not. But it is finished. So that is happy. And then I decided, oh, well, I finished that. I can start a whole new one. So the one that I chose was True Romance by Anne B. Hansen in the Lindy chain. The color is Mist that I did. And it is a V-neck with lace around it. It has lace down here at the bottom. I apologize for the fact that it's been folded up. I finished this like 2 days before we were supposed to leave, and it did say to just do a regular bind off. It did not call for a stretchy bind off. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But I also thought, you know, it's linen, perhaps there's a reason and it needs the structure. And so I did that, and I don't prefer it. It also, I think that I could have made the armhole depth here an inch or two longer. It's not that it's too tight here at all, but this V-neck is very high up on my chest. Like, I feel like it's right up here, like really high for where you would normally have a V-neck. And this doesn't go down at all because it is a very, very stable bind off. So I think what I might do with this is before next summer, or maybe after Stash Dash starts next year, is take out the bind offs on the arms and around the neck. And then it will be a question of whether I choose to actually make this part deeper to give me more length there, because I think that this whole V-neck thing would be much more attractive further down on my body, and obviously I wear a shirt under it, but it was just, I mean, it was like right up in here. So it was okay, but it wasn't the most flattering. So I will probably do something with that at a later time, but not currently, because we actually have a freeze. Is it a freeze warning or a freeze watch for tomorrow? I don't remember. It's supposed to freeze tomorrow night. And then several days it's supposed to, after that, it's supposed to be pretty close to freezing. I feel like you might have to slow that down because that was a lot of information very, very quickly. So then, I had another thing that I wanted to do in relation to my vacation. So let me just grab that. So the first real whip that I've been working on that I'm going to show you is in my Creative Garage Flamingo bag. And I wanted to take something special to Arizona with me as a vacation project. So hold on, there's cats getting into yarn, so I'll be right back. Okay. So anyways, I was saying that I decided I wanted to have a vacation project to work on the plane. I am terrified of flying, like super terrified. I haven't flown in 10 years. Overall, I've only flown like 4 or 5 times. And so I wanted something to kind of occupy me then, and just, if we were not doing anything, we had thought about driving up to the Grand Canyon, and ultimately we decided not to, but I'm like, that's a long time not to be doing anything. We did go to Sedona, but as it turns out, it was too pretty to knit. Like, I wanted to just be looking the whole time. So I didn't do that, but I did get to sit out in the Chase Lounge of a morning and look at the mountains around Scottsdale and knit, and then put my feet in the hot tub or the pool and drink my coffee. Like, it was fantastic and beautiful and wonderful. But the pattern that I chose to do, and I apologize that this is in black and white because you can't see her beautiful shawl, but it is part of the Kino Knits Point Counterpoint collection, the most recent one, and it is Make Your Own Luck by Lisa K. Ross, who is Paper Daisy Creations. and it is the big rainbow shawl. I chose to go ahead and dye my own yarn. And I have been working on this. It's been a pretty rough re-entry into life since coming back from Arizona. And so I've actually like also worked on this since then, just as a comfort thing. And because the yarn is so happy, it has been a nice thing to work on. So it starts small, and you will notice that none of my weave ends have been woven in. And it turns. And we're going back to the orange, and then after this orange and gray section is actually the last one. So I'm not very far away. I'm in the last kind of section part here. If I hold it this way, it's flat on this side. See if I can show most of it at the same time. And I cannot see. But that is the baby that I created, dyeing the yarn and also knitting it up. So I am super stoked about that. And I am going to look forward to wearing this on all the dreary, wintry days that are coming. It's been raining almost the whole time since we've been back, so it has been a definite bummer kind of time. And there have been 2 funerals. I've been back. I came back on last Tuesday, so a week ago, and we've had 2 funerals since then. And one was for a 60-year-old and one was for a 54-year-old. And so I find those even more particularly hard just because of the age, and it reminds me of my dad, who was 58, all that kind of stuff. So the rainbow shawl has been a nice thing to have. Then the next thing that I have coming up is I had signed up quite a while ago to go to Vogue Knitting Live in Minneapolis. And so that is coming up in early-ish November. And the classes that I signed up for, I had a hard time picking classes because I feel like there were a lot of more basic classes that I might have taken because I was interested in meeting the design, like the teacher. But I decided that that was dumb. Like, I shouldn't pay a bunch of money to take a class that I don't need and may not get very much out of. And so I decided to challenge myself and take 2 classes from Sockmatician, who is Nathan Taylor. And both of the classes are for double knitting. I have not double knit before. One is for shaping in double knitting and one is for doing lace in double knitting. And so I knew that I was going to have to learn how to double knit before Vogue Knitting Live. So I'm going to have to reach out of the camera again because my pile was so big I had to put it clear over on the table. So and before I ever signed up for those classes, I have had the yarn and the pattern for quite some time to make the hemisphere hat for my husband, which will make his enormous noggin look like a globe. So the colors that I have, I'm using Malabrigo Rios in Illusion, Natural, and Azules. And they are worsted weight 100% merino. Sorry. So I'm about halfway through Australia. And this is my first ever attempt, and I did not do a swatch either. So I'm kind of happy that I've made it this far, but I do, even though I tried to make sure that the purls on the other side were tighter and things, it's still bigger on the inside. But here is Australia getting finished up. I did decide to do Antarctica in white. I several times started rethinking that. As I was looking at notes, some people also had that same idea, because I'm like, I don't want to make Antarctica brown, because that's just, sorry, I was losing stitches. That's just gonna make it look like global warming has completely taken over the island. But there were some people who used similar colors, and when they had the hat finished, the white was just really all you saw. You didn't really see the landforms. So I don't know if that will be the case. I do think no more yarn than I'm really going through. I may have enough to make another one for me. But yeah, so there's Australia there. The bottom of South America is here. And then Africa is right over here. Where'd he go? There he is. So there's the bottom of Africa. So I am about halfway through the hat. Yeah, so the chart, you can kind of see where my pink highlighting tape is. So I think I am at least halfway to the decreases. But I am finding it's not super hard, and it's really addictive, because you're like, oh look, there's Australia showing up. Like, I just get excited when the little continents have started and all that beeswax. But the pattern says that you should have the yarn in one hand, which is not really my preferred thing, like when I'm doing color work. But I was also finding it really slow to do the pearls with my left hand or my right hand. It was much faster for me to do it if I can keep my yarn separate on my fingers, but I was having, that has kind of been a learning curve, because the one I have back here, that's the yarn that's facing me, you know, wants to creep up my finger and be on the other yarn, and then I have to like use my needle to pick between them instead of just being able to grab one or the other. But that will make no sense if you don't do any of that stuff. But I am excited to get this done. It is very thick and squishy, and I think that I'm gonna love it. Hopefully it turns out to be the right size for him, and hopefully poor Antarctica doesn't end up taking over the whole thing. But those are my 3 colors for that. And those are really my works in progress, what I've been working on. Recently, I took a pair of socks with me that just had the toes done to Arizona, because I'm like, well, there may be times that while this shawl is, it's not completely plain, but it's not hard by any means, like it's not an all lace shawl or something. I thought that there might be times that I would want to work on just completely plain socks, and I never even opened them the whole time, so I didn't even bring those. They'll just wait until another time when I need a to-go project like that. Okay, so then I guess the next thing that I will talk about is I have a couple of acquisitions. My mailbox has been very sad and lonely because I've had nothing mailed to me. The only thing that I really bought all through the summer was I had ordered yarn during my birthday month from Imagine It Yarn Shop, and it came, and it is the Sweet Georgia Cash Lux Spark, and the color on this is London Fog. So in my house it looks maybe a little bit more purpley than I think it did in the store, but it's a gray purple with sparkle in it. And I got that. It's the recommended yarn for the Sparkle Cardigan by Joji Locatelli, and so I got that to make me a nicer, like, dressier cardigan. Then my friend Andrea went on vacation to Europe with her husband and her baby, and she brought me back some goodies. So let me see, here. She went to Woolomulu. And this was in Austria. Yeah, because I can't understand anything, but I thought that the card was super, super cute. And the little saying underneath is stricken mocked sexy. And so we had to Google translate it to find out, because I'm like, I have to know what that says. And so it's either make knitting sexy or knitting made sexy or something along those lines. But I just thought this was the most adorable thing ever. So she brought me back a book and 2 yarns. And this is a pattern book from Lang that has lots of little kid layette things. But I particularly like some of the sweaters, like this one. I really love this little cabled sweater. There's just a ton of really cute. There's some dresses in it, lots of little cardigans, some hats. So yeah, you can kind of see how several of them. And kind of the cool thing about this book too is that I think it's in 4 languages. Yeah. So I found that interesting because there's the English, but then there's French, probably German, and I'm not really sure what the other one is. Probably Swedish or Dutch or something along those lines, just looking at some of the words. But so she brought me this book and a thing of Lang yarns, which is from Germany, in a pretty turquoise color. And then it was really funny when she brought this. This is Mallee Socks Weihnachts edition. This was from Austria, and it was funny when she gave me these because I had really been thinking, man, I want some more Christmas socks. And these will be absolutely perfect. These are the perfect kind of Christmas socks for me. I don't know if they pattern, because I can't read the label. I do know they're 75-25, but I don't know if they will actually pattern or if they'll be more variegated, but I'm really excited about these. They're just exactly what I wanted, and they were unexpected, and I was very happy to get those presents because I had not gotten yarn in a million years. So this, she gave these to me in the middle of September, so that was like the only thing I had gotten for a long, it had been a long time, and so it was very happy to have a wool present. And then of course, one of the first things I did after we decided we were gonna go to Arizona was look up what yarn shop I had to go to. And one of the first ones that I looked at was Tempe Yarn and Fiber. And then I was like, you know what, that one looks good because it has so many local dyers. So I picked up quite a bit there. This is Mountain Colors, which is actually out of Montana, but the colors really reminded me of Arizona, and I just thought these would be a nice pair of fall-y, Arizona-y socks. So there's that. Yarn Less Traveled is apparently from Arizona as well. I did not realize that. But you can find find her on travelingyarn.com. And this is the Tuesday night dance party. And I just thought these would be super fun for a pair of socks. And then I saw this one, the Desert Bloom Yarns speaks my language. This is a gray and purple and pink mauve color. And had they had a sweater's quantity of this, I probably would have gotten it, because I could not leave without this one. I just loved it so much. And I did go ahead and get a purple to go with it. So this one is called Pink Windmills, and this is Alfalfa. So I got those to go together, and I felt like that purple kind of pulled out some of the purples in that, so that if I want to do a two-colored shawl or something, I would have that. And there was a super cute, a very, very big bush in the backyard of the house that we stayed in. And I don't know what it was called, because it's not a kind of bush that we have around here. But it had super bright pink, it had exactly this color of pink blooms on it, and it was beautiful, and it was just covered with them. And so when I saw this pink yarn, I was like, oh, that looks just like the bush. So even though this seems like it may be kind of a crazy combination, it will always remind me of that bush. So I don't know if I will maybe try to find a gray or something to tone it down a little bit, or what exactly I will do, but I did get these to go together. It's very tonal pink and tonal green. Looked exactly like that bush. This is the Sanita cactus, and this is Bonker hedgehog. Okay, I didn't realize that there were actually like things about the yarn, like the names of them. That's fun. Now I'm distracted. So these are all named after plants in the area. And then she kind of has a little blurb about what that plant is. So that was all of my acquisitions, and I think I've told you all the crazy stuff that's happened. Probably a little bit too fast, because I'm thinking I did not have that much time on the last. I think the last one was only 30 minutes, so I'm still under an hour. The other thing that I've been really proud of, I don't know if I have any pictures, but my yarn babies have been growing up over the summer, and my friend Ashley, who I taught to knit back in March, she made her first hat, and then the other person, who's not really my yarn baby, but she was knitting, and I've kind of tried to get her into the community. She was making pretty much mostly dishcloths, and so I'm like, oh, well, Yarn Hoarder has the dishcloth challenge, you should do that on Instagram. And I've been trying to talk her into doing something in the round for probably the last 2 years. And I finally convinced her to go ahead and do it. And I actually gave her a copy of one of the Learn to Knit books that I made for my class at Synod School. And that had the hat pattern in it, and she made one for herself, and then she made one for her son, and then she went and bought more yarn, I think, so she can make some more. So I was very happy and excited about that. Anytime someone is new and excited and just learning and growing, it just makes me so happy. Knitting is great. So my class experience, preparing for that was pretty stressful. And also, you know, having that whole extra thing that I had to prepare for was kind of stressful. And also, I was very, very worried about teaching middle schoolers, because I had no idea what to expect as far as kind of their attitudes. I know that our family goes to youth group. My husband teaches confirmation for the 7th and 8th graders, and then youth is 9th through 12th, and they all have a family style meal before, and then they separate and do their things. And our family, even though neither one of our none of our kids, neither one, we've got like a million, none of them are actually youth, but we go every week to be part of the group and to show them that we care about them and all of that stuff. And I much prefer to be around the youth kids over the middle schoolers. I found that to be like the hardest time in my life growing up, those couple of years, and I kind of find, in my defense, there have been, the whole time, we've been here for 3 years, we're starting our 4th year, every year it has been 6 or 8 boys and 1 or 2 girls that are in the confirmation class, and so they have been rowdy and crazy and they're just a little nuts. And so I've always preferred to be around the youth kids, who we had a lot of older girls in the youth. And so I was very worried about teaching middle schoolers. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. But I ended up with 9 kids. I had 7 girls and 2 boys. And they chose the class. They wanted to be there. They tried so hard. I had one girl who actually completely finished her hat. I overestimated the ability to cast on for the hats. I probably, if I was teaching the exact same thing again, would probably have cast on all the hats for them. And then because then I think they could have much easier finished the hat. I think then teaching them this is how you cast on would have been better, because it took up an entire day, which the class is only like an hour long, 50 minutes or something like that. So that took up quite a bit of time. That's something that I would do differently, but we did from the start. We learned the German twisted cast on. I'm like, that's the best thing for hats. Like, you can do it. It just took more time, especially because the helper that I had never done the cast on, so she didn't know it. So then it was just me trying to show everybody how to do it. So, but it went very well. The kids were excited. They tried hard. They worked so hard. It was funny because a lot of them, are working with their tongues out, which, when I put on mascara, I still have my tongue hanging out. So I totally get, like, when you're concentrating, your tongue just has to be out. And at the end of the class, I asked them, so I have to turn in a proposal for next year on what I want to teach. What would you guys be interested in learning for next year? And their suggestions were fingerless mitts, which I think is doable, socks, scarves, which are like my least favorite thing to knit at all, and ugly Christmas sweaters. That's what they wanted to do for the class next year. I was like, guys are going to need to practice knitting through the year, but I did propose a class that has more options we will do worsted weight instead of chunky this time, and I proposed the hat for beginners, and then have a few options where they can do a sweater, or not a sweater, a scarf if they choose, or having a very, very basic and simple fingerless mitt pattern, perhaps. We'll have to see. But I was very excited that they were so excited and looking forward to next year. I felt like that was a success. We did not finish all of our hats, but I did not care. Like, they loved it. They enjoyed it, and that made me incredibly happy. And I felt very successful and proud of that experience. It was wonderful. They also asked me about some of the stuff that I've ever made, and so I told them some of the crazier stuff that I've made as well. And in the past, I told them that I had made some rainbow striped socks that went all the way up to my knees, because I decided I was going to use all the yarn, so I just kept going and going and going. And so they want me to wear those on the first day of class next year. I have not gotten any kind of confirmation if I'm teaching again, but I told them that I would wear those even though I would be wearing shorts because it will be 90 degrees out at the end of July in northern Iowa. So it has been a long summer and I have missed you guys. If you are new here, welcome. I know that there's been a few people I think that maybe gave up and have gone their own way, but I appreciate everyone who has stuck around and waited. It's been a lot of life since the last time that I talked to you guys, and it's been a lot of stress, but truthfully, there's been a lot of growth as well, and I'm very proud of all the stuff that I did. The dyeing of this shawl, I was extremely proud of. I just, it's been wonderful to know that the community's there, even when I can't fully participate. We did have one question in the Ravelry group about whether I was going to podcast again, and the answer to that is obviously yes. If you have other questions or suggestions of stuff that you would like to hear about on the podcast, in the Ravelry group, which you can find as Mama and the Manse, go ahead and ask me those questions. I am pretty into answering that, and it makes it easier to have just a little bit more content and makes it relevant for what you guys are interested in. If you're new, I hope you will like and subscribe and come back again. It should definitely not be quite as long of a time. I thought that I would be able to get right back into it once school started. However, right before school started, we found out that my son had been accepted into a speech therapy clinic in Omaha on Wednesdays, which was the day that I thought that I could make it work for podcasting. And so now instead, as soon as we get the other kids off to school, we are loading the little two up and going to speech therapy in Omaha. And by the time that we get back, it's usually pretty close to school pickup time. So that hasn't happened yet, but this week, today, I was like, okay, I'm just going to start throwing everything into the chair. I already have makeup on. I'm, still dressed from the funeral, so I can just do it, because if I don't, then who knows how long it would be. It's already been long enough. So, I think that is everything. And I'm actually pretty impressed with it not being 2 hours long. I don't know what I used to talk about. I must have just rambled a lot. I think I probably gave more details about the yarn and the patterns, but it's been a long time since I knitted some of this stuff. If you do have any specific questions about anything that I showed that I didn't give enough information, let me know. I don't think that I will have time to do any kind of show notes or linkage, but if it's something specific, I can get that for you and answer you, rather than trying to do it for everything, because with this county fair and everything else, it would take forever. So do let me know if you have any questions. If you have any other things that you would like to know about on the podcast, ask that in the Ravelry group. You can find me on Instagram. I hope to be back on there some more in the very near future. And I think that's all. I hope that you are staying cool enough to be able to start wearing your knits. I know some of you are probably already getting, I know some of you are probably already getting snow, because I know that there are a lot of Canadians who watch this podcast. And now that it's October, I would be jealous of the snow, but before it was October, when it was like the middle of September and you were getting snow, I was not jealous of that. We were actually, the only time I've been to Canada, we went and did not know that it was Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. So it was like this time of year when we went to Canada, and it did snow on us a little bit when we were up there. But I hope that you're able to enjoy your knits wherever you are, and I will see you next time. Enjoy your knitting.